Goal. I mean, I had a bit of time to think. We were 24-7 down in Edinburgh. Today we were 21-8 down. So all I can say is that at least we learnt our lessons from the last time we played. Um, I don't think, I mean, not many teams that go 21-8 down in a quarterfinals and win it as convincingly as we did at the end there. But, I think one lesson that we can't ignore is that we can't play with 14 men and give them 2 tries while you're down with 14 men and think you're always going to come back and win. So I was just very happy that there was like a lot of fight and a lot of resilience and also learning. I always talk to you guys about when you're in these comps, you've got to learn from what happens previously. And I mean, how much better learning can that be? 24-7 down in Edinburgh and 21-8 down here. And the reality was we got a result today, whereas we didn't get one the last time we played. In terms of the way we play, definitely, because I mean, we didn't play well. We didn't play well as we can. And also, it depends on who we play against. The team could be completely different. We play the Sharks. There's obviously a way you beat the Sharks, and there's Munster's a different way to play them as well. So we'll have to have a look and see who wins that game, and then make a decision on selection and also on the style that I think we need in order to get a result. Thank you. Mm. Mm. Correct. No, I mean, isn't it amazing, Next week you must ask me about other things, and I can hopefully talk nicely about those things. I mean, but that's. I mean, that's why I said there's no guarantee, guys. I mean, there's knockout games, and you get to certain games, and I think the expectation is people think that the team that finishes seventh should automatically lose to the team that finishes second. But this comp is so tight. I mean, Leinster lost to the Scarlets in the pool games. They lost to us. As I came here, I saw the scores 12-7. So I mean, it's not even one-way traffic in Leinster with Scarlet. So we obviously very, very happy with that result. Happy the way that we came back from 21-8 down. Happy that we had learnt our lessons from the last time we played them. But I'm not going to avoid the fact that we can't give yellow cards away. I told you that yesterday. I thought it was a bit harsh, to be fair. I mean, I that's just my feeling. I thought it was a bit harsh, But that shows you those are the margins that you're going to get in these playoff games, and you're going to have to make sure that you're good enough.
Coach, just on Keegan Johannes, there was conversations yesterday about Vinny moving in, someone coming in and filling in a bit of a reject, but he seemed to play the whole game. Is that a marker of the credit that you give him for the control that he exhibited in a game that was tight and pulling his weight, that played basically the whole 80?
I also, it was at half time, I said to him, don't be scared to keep kicking for poles. You don't have to give the kicking tee to anyone else. I mean, just back yourself. I mean, you've kicked so well for us the whole year, and all of a sudden, I've got David kicking for poles. I've got Willie calling for his kicking tee. I just said, look, just back yourself. You're not going to win or lose this game because you miss a kick. You need to. So, I mean, let's be fair, guys. I mean, he's an unknown fly-half that's playing for us, and he was, in my eyes, he was as good as anyone else on the field today. I mean, that dummy and run and line break and score in the corner is how many tens in this competition that can do that as well. So obviously very, very happy that he backed himself in the second half, because we needed that. We needed big players to stand up, and these are the stages that those kind of players, whoever they are, that can play under that pressure and play well, are the guys you need in your team.
And Coach, because you've been here so many times as a team, did that give you confidence even at halftime or when they were taking the lead and getting more and more points, that you guys would eventually come back, wrestle yourselves back into the fixture and go on to win it?
Yeah, I don't know just about the experience. I think also just that learning curve from we lost to them there, and we gave them 24-7, and everyone's feeling after that game is we could have won it and should have won it, and we're good enough to win it. So the question was, here we are, 21-8 down. We fought back to 21-18. Well, and then you must be good enough. You can't just say that after the last game and then not be good enough to do it. So Knockout games, guys, whether you win by 1 point, whether you win by 10 points, that's what it's about. So the way we found a way in the last 10 and the first 10 of the second half to actually change the game, because we were dead. 21-8, we were dead. Is obviously, as a coach, you can only take the positives out of that. Mm. 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 Yeah, it won't be the strategy, and Nick, it will just be what I've said to you, is that sometimes when you've lost to a team, you don't have to say anything. It's not like there's an expectation you're just going to run out and win. And we've lost twice to the Sharks this year, and we did beat Munster in Munster. But saying that, I mean, they've come along in the last couple of years to South Africa, won games and won the final. So I've got no doubt whoever you play against is going to be one of those games where you're going to have to play your best. And I don't think I'm going to have to say anything, and I'm talking about from a confidence point of view, because they'll know that this is knockout rugby, and maybe today's result was also a bit of a blessing, because it didn't go away, and we could quite easily have played against another team that kept us out for longer periods of time, and we wouldn't have been 21-18 at half time. We could have quite easily been 21-11 down, or whatever the story was, and then it becomes a completely different game. So, but I know it's a cliche, but whatever happened today is irrelevant now. It's finished. There's 2 games left, and whoever we play, there needs to be a reboot on what we need to do to get a result. Yeah, probably because you asked me that question yesterday, Sim, and I wasn't sure if you guys were hoping that it would go the other way. Tongue in cheek, Sim. I mean, you asked me, how do you get a good start? Sean says he wants a good start, and he got a good start. I mean, at the moment, the margins are small, guys, because if you remember correctly, we were on our way to score, and Marcel made a pass. We knocked it on. Just before halftime, Ambrose got tackled from behind, lost the ball. I mean, that quite easily have been the other way around, where we get a good start and score as well. We were on their trial line at the beginning of the game, and we didn't finish. So Sean wanted a quick start, and he got it. And I'm just very thankful that even with a quick start, we won. I mean, there were 21 points to 8 up, and the final score was 40 something, 33, I think. It means if you work it out, from 8 to 30 to 40 something is a lot more rugby that we played in that block than they played, and that will obviously be pleasing for us as a group. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, maybe it was altitude, although you guys say there is no altitude, so maybe it was altitude. Not sure. Maybe it caught them in maybe the scrumming and the mauling and the altitude in the 60th minute, which people don't want to talk about. Maybe that counts in your favor. Yeah, I do have a preference. If I wear my commercial hat, we want the Sharks to have a full stadium. And if I wear my other hat, then I wouldn't mind playing Munster. And I don't say that, but just it doesn't matter. But I just said to someone, if you work in the marketing department and you want to sell the stadium out, and all the Shark supporters will come, then you'll want one opposition, and if the other way around. So I suppose I'm talking myself in a corner, Sim, because what I'm saying is there is no. You need to beat whoever comes here next week if you think you're good enough to win the competition. And that was something I said to them today before the game: is if you think you're good enough to win this comp, you've got to be good enough to beat Edinburgh at home. And that's basically what's going to happen next week as well. Whoever comes here, if we think we're good enough to win this competition, you're going to have to win whoever comes next week to get to the final.
Coach, just to follow up on what is the communication down to the field?
Yeah. A couple of choice words, which obviously won't be able to tell you on national TV. But it's funny when you. I mean, I don't. That's also tongue in cheek, because there's what are you going to do? What can you do? You can't shout and scream and behave like a lunatic up there and think it's automatically. I just had confidence that it's an 80-minute game. They got a good start. We spoke about when we got back from Edinburgh that giving them 24/7 start made it so tough for us to win the game. And so to go from 21-8 to 21-18 in that small space of time must have made the players feel, well, there's a learning here. And that's what you want as a coach. You want players to learn from where they are, what situations they're in. Because it's never, ever going to be where you just run out and you're 20 points ahead and then, then they get a card and then you have a little bit more time to relax. I mean, this is not, top level sport is sometimes you're going to have to find different ways in which you get an end result in 80 minutes. So haven't, we played with 14 men and gave them 14 points. Well, what did you expect? Now the challenge is, are we good enough? Are we good enough as a group to have learned what we learned, and good enough now to finish this game by making sure we controlled?
Any frustration on some of the
Yeah, I must say, in defense of the referee, I spoke to Ruan Nokia. He just said at times maybe there were too many guys talking, and we probably made it harder for ourselves, because you can imagine, everyone's having a view, and the referee is only human. I mean, at the end of the day, if I saw things one way, he saw things another way, maybe the fullback sees the game another way. So that's again, and I want to say this, that I think the one thing we really did well today is we eventually didn't worry about what he was doing and what he was saying and what our perceptions were. We just focused on playing, because if we had got sucked into, but he won't do this and he won't do that and he won't allow this and he's allowing that and he's not listening to us, I think it could quite easily have gone away from us, and we could have been sitting here blaming everything other than the fact that we could have actually played properly. And Embro's dropped that ball, and I'm giving an example, that's 7 points. Kanan, the ball chipped over, that's 7 points. He didn't regather it. Akka van der Merwe's grabber through. I mean, that's try time. We didn't get there. So you can't then look at the officiating and go. There were times that I think that he could have looked at things differently. One of the biggest calls that he made, which I obviously have to look at, was that scrum on the halfway line where we were killing them, and then he reset, and then he gave them a penalty for us walking around. Now, I would have preferred him to give the penalty on the halfway line to us for the first scrum, but you're not always going to get the calls you want.
Like you've often spoken about, it's been pretty clear from everything what you needed enforcement. Talk us through the kind of impact that Leroy and Caden moving had in shaping the game towards them.
Yeah. And also, Marco van Staden. Which club in the world has got a World Cup winner other than Leinster, got a double World Cup winner? But there are not many clubs that can put a guy like Marco on for Marcel. And Akka on for Grobbies. That's like a Springbok for a Springbok and a Springbok for another Springbok. And that's, I want to say this to you, that's where I want to get to. I want to get to the Bulls being to a point where if we're going to be the best club team in the world, and we're going to be the best provincial team in the world, then we need that. We need every guy who comes off the bench to be an international. So it's not just the guys who, like you say, Kanan and Willie, and that's fantastic that those guys can play for us, but what we've got to try and do, and the board and CEO and everybody here know that we've got to get to a point where we can have an international. The reason our hookers play so well is because we've got Jan Hendrik who can play hooker, we've got Akker who can play hooker, and we've got Grobbies who can play hooker, and they've all been Springboks. Now imagine what it's like, when you go to training, everyone's pushing each other to make sure they get a selection. So if we can have a situation where every position, and I know it's a long shot, but when we get to a position where everybody wants to be a Springbok, has been a Springbok, wants to be the best, wants to start in the team, then you're going to get results like you get today. No, he got a bang on his shoulder. And there again, which is quite nice. You've got to go like Marco standing there. There's no use saying, listen, tell him to fuss bait. You can actually say, look, take him off. I mean, there's no use trying to do anything. I mean, you've got a Springbok on the bench. So, no, I was always going to put him on. I was always going to put Marco on with enough time. Just happened that at that, I think it was like 5 minutes into the second half, once he got that bang, I felt it was the right time to do it anyway. No. So, obviously, at this point in time, it doesn't look like anyone's injured. So, which is quite nice because it means next week we can create a bit of continuity and go into the next game with as least amount of disruptions as we would want.
I mean, in the games you played in the season, especially now that you guys didn't have set on the field, or the second time, Ross Thompson's well, what was the stop from a defensive point of view?
Did. Yeah. I think we probably, sounds crazy, but we look quite spooked today. We look nervous. I don't know why. We look like, I don't know. I just thought that the decisions we made, the passes we made, the offloads we made, the reads we made on defense. I will say that when you got 14 men on the field and you've lost a winger, chances are that actually this team is actually going to skin you out wide. So it goes hand in hand. This team is the team that with Wes Goosen and with the outside backs they have, if you make a mistake defensively, whether you've got 15 on the field, they will actually expose that. So I'm not going to lose too much sleep on the basis that those two tries you talk about, and maybe the one where we missed that tackle. If you remember correctly, just before that, I think Keegan Johannes missed a tackle and the guy pulled his foot out of. Had we made that tackle, then it wouldn't have been as expensive as it was. But this team they are good enough with the outside backs, and that's where they play to. So to have one less back closing and covering and closing eventually is going to lead to the fact that they're going to score points.
Jake, would you say scrums and your kicking game were your two most sort of successful ways of putting Edinburgh under pressure today? He's really man of the match. Obviously, he's not a great thing to attack, but his kicking game as well was really good.
And he's just his experience kid. I didn't think he was man of the match, guys, to be honest. But anyway, I don't work in media and I don't sit in the coach.
It's a public vote.
Oh, is it a public vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think his whole family's here today, so maybe that's why. I didn't say that. He played well, and I'm happy for him because we need those big players to play well in these big games, and that's one thing that's probably lacked in the last 3-4 years that I've been here is that we haven't been able to get our best players playing well in the biggest games. So to him get man of the match, I'm sure that's going to be a massive boost for him. Kicking wise, I'm quite surprised because I think we kicked at times we could have kicked better. I do think that and I'm not going to elaborate with you guys, but I think there's a reason we played Loftus and the reason we played altitude, and I think we can use that from a kicking point of view in our favor as well. So, but you're right. Scrum wise, other than that scrum on the halfway line, which I thought was a little bit harsh, because it could quite easily have been the other way. I thought and what I really enjoyed, Ken, is that even the bench came on and scrummed as well as they did too, which is obviously a massive boost for us going forward.
You mentioned the team looking a bit sort of skittish at the start, and I guess they did. Do you feel that's a valuable lesson though, that at the back end of the first half and in the start of the second half, when they went back to basic strength like the scrum and like a kicking game, then suddenly that's when you got control of the game back.
100%. That's why I couldn't understand. I don't want to single a guy out, but let's give you an example. We're running down the 22, and Marcel makes a pass to someone in the 22. It's like the first entry we've got in the 22, and I'm thinking all you got to do is just keep the pressure, and we offload, we knock it on. The next thing they're down in our 22. Now, the message is quite clear: is that when we start these games, we need to the two messages that I had today, or the two words that I was very, very big on with them, was control and composure. We needed to have control and we needed to have composure, because these are the things that big players do in big games. And for the first, I'd say 25 minutes, those are the two things we looked like we didn't have. We didn't look like we were in control. We didn't look like we had composure. But then, for the next 55 minutes, that is as composed and as controlled we've been the whole year. I could sense at the end they weren't going to score again, and it was almost like, everyone had decided they're not going to score again, and then you get a sense in the coach's box that everyone's on the same page, and that's all you want. You just want players that are playing in this level and in these big competitions at this time to have those two elements to their game: control and composure.
Coach, over the last few seasons, there's been disappointments in knockout matches. I want to find out how much do you draw from that?
Yeah.
Make sure that you sort of benefiting from having a good.
Yeah. It's a difficult question for me to answer because there is no right. Someone asked me the other day, I read an article about being chokers. I've got a full-time psychologist that works with our team. So what more can you give a team if the label is you're a choker or the perception is you're a choker? What you want as a coach is you want to make sure that when they get these opportunities to be in these big games, that they learn all the things that didn't work and all the things that did work. I said to you the other day when I was with the media, if you tell the guy, careful the water on the left-hand side in a golf hole, chances are hits it in the water. So it's one of those things I don't think you need to talk about it. I think that you need to encourage the other side. Where we were, what we've done, who we've played against, why we didn't pull it through, what we were good at. That's the way I'm seeing it now. We want to play in the final and we want to win the final. And whatever we've learned along the way, even myself included, someone asked me the other day about, look today, the bench is different. Today we finished strong. Today our scrum was stronger in the second half than it was in the second half of other games in the last 4 years. So that's why when I say to Sim, sometimes it's me. Sometimes I need to look at, what did we do? Who came on? When did he play? How much time did he get? Who did he play with? And I'm happy that after 4 years, I'm happy to put reserves on. I'm happy to put another front row on. I'm happy to give confidence to a guy like Keegan Johannes, who's run at 10 and will continue to kick for goal, even though he feels as though he's not striking it properly. So I suppose what I'm trying to say to you is, in a roundabout way, is we don't want to talk about that. What happened in the past, it's irrelevant, other than the fact that it's got to help you. It doesn't matter, And we will next week we're in the semi-final again, and that means everything we need to do this week of what we did in that semi-final. We beat Leinster away in the semi-final. Yeah, we beat Leinster away in the semi-final there. Maybe the semi-finals have been the best weeks in the years that I've been coaching. And maybe that's something we just got to go and find what worked and then make sure that becomes the best week again, because then we'll get the same result. But it isn't something that we talk about. It's like funny when you coach, you don't want to use words like, lose and remember this, and because I think that brings all the negativity to the thought process instead of the positivity, which is we're in the semi-final. And in this point in time, there's only 2 South African sides left in this competition, and the Bulls again, I say it again, are at the top of the table. So what more can I ask from these young guys?
Coach Jake, just looking at obviously your conversations this week, you spoke a lot about the Bulls getting back to the old days and the set piece and the dominance in that. A couple of times today, you guys went off the top from the lineouts, which was a bit surprising for me while we were speaking about it. What was the thought process of doing that today?
I'll tell you, Ronaldo, and again, you've played, you understand it. If you're not going to get love for mauling, and you're not going to get penalties for sacking late, then you need to play away from there. And there were times where I thought we were running with them with the maul and the thing collapsed and it was sacking. Again, now that's fine. It just means that as a player and as a group, you've got to go, right, we don't get love here. We need to find love somewhere else. And that's what I quite enjoyed, is that we went from what we were good at and what we thought we could do into, we wouldn't have done that 3 years ago. We would have carried on mauling, kept moaning, kept saying the referee's not rewarding us, kept making a reason why we can't get the ball out of that first breakdown. So it wasn't. I think it's something that we've spoken about over 4 years. Is we've got to go into a game with an idea and a plan, and if that doesn't work, you've got to find another way. You cannot be dumb enough just to think that you're eventually going to get what you think you're going to get. And I mean, one of the greatest moves we did today was the one where we went off the top and David went around on the outside. I think Kane to David back into Ambrose. That would have been one of the tries of the year. And that was catching them on the basis they thought we were going to maul. So, it's we're going to have to find other ways. I mean, even in the 22, I'm sure you noticed we went off the top and went straight to Harold because teams are expecting us to maul 5 yards out. And so that variation, we know when we defend, but it's much tougher to defend when a team does different things than just put their heads down and maul.
And then obviously we spoke about it, obviously the individual player brilliance. In the season, the Bulls were obviously winning every game and they were kind of a massive team performance. But do you think your stars are getting aligned with your plan and what all the different pieces you put together and players now starting to become that like where they were a couple of years ago?
It's funny. Henning said to me the one thing he feels more now than any other time since we've been together is that the seniors are taking charge. And it's funny that you mentioned that. And what he means by that is the senior players. I mean, Willie is now man of the match in a quarterfinal. I'm just using an example. We've had games where our decision makers and our senior players have played their worst in the playoff games. We've had that. So maybe this is another way of whatever it's worked, and I'm talking about whether it's Henning working with them mentally, whether it's the group growing, whether it's the combinations that we've kept together or changed, is helping. I mean, that's what you need. In the big games, you need the best players to stand up and play their best rugby. That's just how rugby works, guys. World Cup final 2007, Victor Matfield, man of the match. World Cup 2019, Dwayne Vermeulen, man of the match. Sometimes the senior statesmen are the ones that play their best in those biggest games. And when Willie wins man of the match in a quarterfinal, and I know I was joking when I said to you, but that's what do you think that means for the rest of the group? It means that there's ownership to your role now as a senior player, and that can only have a domino effect on everyone in the group. So you're right. It is exactly that, is that we have changed in the last 4 years where our senior players are now the ones that are setting the tone and the performances for us as a group.
Recording stopped.
Thanks, guys.